For this specific analysis, after practice, I wanted to focus in on a specific principle that I noticed a trend on a couple fights, which was controlling the fight, or controlling elements of the fight that enabled the kill. So let's start with this fight, and pay attention to the control that's gained and gaining dominance as we go through the fight. All right, so let's back it up and let's just break it down a little bit. So easy peasy, always starting off, we're engaged already, we're moving through, we're having this conversation right here in the center, just trying to gain control. Who's coming in as we're adjusting. We back off because we don't like the pressure, and we come back in for a strike. I really always like when this conversation happens. If you maintain contact, it makes attacks that are coming in towards Edward, for example, he already has contact with the blade, so whenever that kind of potential strike comes in, it's very quick to block because you've already kind of done half the work. So right here we're watching, see another exchange, and it's still the same thing. We make contact right here. Edward has gained control of his blade through a block, and we're going to move into kind of a potentially a block attack combo. Hesitating, a little hesitation there. It could have led into a strike from here following that block attack combo, but what I really like to see is, even though there wasn't a committed attack, we maintained control, which really didn't give Edward's opponent any options. Alright, now we're coming into the kind of the push. Still controlling the blade with his blade. He steps in with the dagger, makes contact here while his sword is pulled away. Edward can see that they're backing up. And so we want to maintain that contact, especially during a rush. So getting that dagger in there is really helpful. He's following the blade with his dagger right here, really trying to capture it and maintain that contact. Doesn't give a lot of options. Even with a little strike that's coming in, that dagger is preventing it from doing any kind of harm. As it comes in closer, you can even take control and push it further away to really solidify. Okay, so now the sword is free. This is where it gets really dangerous, because now that you've lost control, there's a possibility that it can come back to bite you. Luckily, he's able to step back, come back in, and makes another block. It's when you lose control that your opponent suddenly realizes that I can go forward again. When you have control, all they can really think about is going backwards to try to free their blade. So you can see that the moment he got his blade free, he went on the offensive. Alright, so now we're back to kind of square one again. And right here, this is a really, kind of a nice exchange, because Edward was on his heels, moving back, and the drive offensively was coming this way. Luckily, Edward's using his footwork down here, retreated far enough that gave him enough distance where it's kind of like we've disengaged, we're reset, but the momentum is still driving this way, which means now that Edward has enough kind of distance, they're no longer kind of conversing. And while his opponent is focused on purely moving in, Edward has that beautiful strike up towards the chest to land that shot. So it's a combination of Edward was able to come in under pressure, maintaining control of the blade, but the moment he lost it, the opponent bounced back, but using footwork, to control the distance that's happening in the fight. As the momentum continues on, it gives you an opportunity to return back with a strike as he walks into the strike essentially and lands the shot. Well done. This next clip is between Blaze and Jake, and again we're focusing on controlling Blaze and controlling elements of the fight that lead to opportunities of victory. So let's watch this little end clip here between the duel. They've already been fighting for a good 30 seconds, so here we go. Beautiful. Let's back that up. Okay, so we got here, again, Blaze has this death stick up here, his main point of contact. Jake is being aggressive, pointing in, and we're just kind of shifting around to see where's everybody feeling? Where are we going to settle to have this conversation? You know, what Jake is seeing is this offhand as a ready target. You know, Blaze's sword is way down here. Jake's blade is all right here. This should be a really, you know, ding ding, like good target. And if you can, that's a great place to go for death stick fighters. So we strike out. We get a little movement, quick reaction from Blaze that keeps it from landing. Blaze now kind of has drawn him in. We're going to keep going. Oh. Blaze sees it coming. He knows, pull back. He puts it right back there and moves it, reminding him that Jake that is still there. Okay, so this is where I think understanding where your opponent is aiming can lead you to control, because now you can say, oh, if you're aiming for here, right here, well, I know it's coming. I can start thinking, what do I do if he does it again? This is probing your opponents, right? Understanding, getting their reaction, figuring out what's going on. And then once you get a plan, you can actually use this hand as bait, which I think Blaze quickly comes to the plan. Okay, Jake is going to strike here. What am I going to do as he goes for my hand? And I want him to go for it because I have a plan. And what we see is quick up. Blaze raises his hand up, gets the full extension of Jake's sword. Okay. Immediately brings it down and makes that contact, right? He's walked right into the trap. And we've made contact. And not only that, but it's not just a block, but it's a follow through. Okay. Blaze is moving forward because Jake's response is to pull back from his sword. But that death stick right here is maintaining contact, keeping it away from the fight, right? The whole time Jake is backing up. Blaze still has control of that blade so that he can quickly close distance with that solid footwork, right? All the way to here. He's still landing it. Okay? We've made contact right here. And he still has control of the blade. This is amazing death stick work to get past everything. There's really nothing he can do because Jake, even though Jake's arm is in a position to do a 3 block, which is a perfect block for this kind of attack coming in, the fact that Blaze has maintained contact the entire time with Jake's sword means it's an ineffective block. What would have caught his blade and pushed him aside, the tip is down low, and Blaze's sword is able to go right over it, in for that killing shot. And just continues on, even after a step or two, even through that whole retreat. Blaze did an amazing job, never letting go of that death stick from Jake's sword, trapping it completely. With the death stick, there's nothing there. It's just that solid pressure and that solid control that came from a bait, understanding what Jake's target was, baiting him in, timing it just right, and then driving in with control to land that shot. There's really nothing Jake could have done, and Blaze played that in my head perfectly. This last duel is between Martin and Elydri, and again, we're going to see some control, especially through a solid rush. So let's watch it. They've already been fighting for about 20 seconds. There it is. Okay, let's back it up and let's break this down. Okay, the two of them are really just, vetting each other out. Where are we going? What's going on? We're having a conversation. Martin is moving his sword around, trying to figure out where is Elydri's positioning. Elydri's trying to settle in, keeping him at bay. The fact that Elydri's sword stays out like this is a really good tactic to keep someone like Martin, who likes to press, who likes to charge in. Keeping that sword out in front of you means Martin knows he has to deal with this before he can drive in for the kill, right? So it's a really good tactic to keep them at bay. And so Martin's working through everything, trying to figure out what to do. And Elydri sees, oh, he's walking in, maybe I have a chance to land that shot. Really good reach, really good exchange, just a little off on range, especially as Martin leans back. But this is where I think someone like Martin is playing into, okay, a parry riposte. A parry riposte is any time you block or do something to negate someone's attack, and then you riposte or return with your own offensive strike. And for chargers and people who like to rush, like after a strike, especially a long strike like that from Elydri, this moment is a perfect time to return. And Martin wastes no time. Okay, so he pulls back in. Elydri is resetting. Okay, comes back in. Elydri backs up a little bit more. All right, here we go. Now Martin sees, okay, that sword that I had to deal with that used to be right here is now down here. There is a line. Okay, so now he sees it's time to go. He has addressed it. He's pushed a little bit harder. Elydri's sword goes down. I see a moment. Okay, and Martin's rush is, okay, get that dagger down low to address Elydri's sword. Bring his sword up. Take care of the death stick. Get it figured out. Maybe reach past it if he can. Okay, but Elydri's death stick captures it. Claims control of it. And then comes in the sword, right? Luckily, Martin's got his dagger and has had it in position to respond. Up it comes, right where it's supposed to, right here, where it can make contact with that blade, right? And Elydri's death stick has lost control of Martin's blade, right? So here, Elydri's blade is firmly set in. Specifically, let's see if I can get this just right. Oop. Martin's quillions, so it's trapped, right? Elydri is coming down with the death stick, trying to reclaim and protect herself from the blade, but the Martin's tip control is able to go around and under in a solid disengage past the death stick, and that leaves Elydri completely open from a shot in towards Martin during the rush, right? In it goes, and bam. There's really nothing Elydri can do because Martin has controlled the blade. He's beaten the death stick. His sword is coming in on the center line, and his speed and forward momentum is outpacing Elydri's retreat back. So all of that combined, as Martin controls the situation and gets past the obstacles, it enables him for that rush and press in to get that kill, all the while controlling anything that may pose a threat to him. It was well timed, well done, and well controlled on Martin's part to get that solid rush in. All right, this last one is actually part of the melees that came up during the practice, and so we have a group of 3 versus Veron and Ulrich, where me, Evelyn, and Calcifer are facing off at the castle. So let's watch the last little bit. This is, we've just entered up and we're facing off. Okay, let's back it up. All right, so breaking this down a little bit, we come up to engagement. Even though we have the numbers, we're still wary of Ulrich and Veron for obvious reasons. They're very good, so we have to be smart about how we handle this. So we come in, we're having some exchanges as we strike back and forth, back and forth. Okay, we're trying to gain some semblance of control. Having being on such a narrow castle right here means a flanking maneuver is very difficult to perform, because if we do too much, Calcifer goes over the edge. So flanking is tough. So we have to figure out a way to get some form of a cross shot, or we have to eliminate one of them. We have to gain some angle on our opponents to get in past this. Otherwise, the numbers advantage is kind of neutralized. Okay, so we come in here. Veron goes for the foot, which we talked together, and got to watch out for those. Okay, we come in, get a solid block, an exchange. And that leads to a kill. That, again, we see another example of a parry riposte. Veron goes in, I block, I return, and get the kill. It's just the parry riposte is something that, if we can master as fencers, is amazing, because it provides so many opportunities. And now we have an advantage. Okay, so now we have a little bit more room. We're fighting a solar fencer, and we're getting to a point where, okay, how do we get an angle on Ulrich? So right now, Ulrich here is engaged with Evelyn and Calcifer. That was a wonderful doodle. And I'm thinking to myself, I can get this cross shot in, and I can close in some distance. So I'm going to come in and try to take him. But Ulrich is able to quickly retreat, stay away from where we're going, address my blades, right? And just move distance. Because now, even though he was dealing with these 2 fencers, because I was coming in, he retreated. And now, even though it's still 3-on-1, these guys are far enough back that essentially it's a 1-on-1 right now, and he can deal with that. So using his footwork, he's able to, again, address the numbers. Now this is where I think the control comes in, right? Because yeah, I step in quickly and realize, oh yeah, he's addressing me, but you know what? I can't get the kill, but I've got his blades on me, right? Both of his blades are focused in on me, and I've got case right now. I've got a sword here and a sword here. And what I'm going to do is I've closed distance. I'm going to keep closing distance. I've got my blade right here on his and my blade right here on his. And we're going to keep closing distance. He cannot get away from me. Right? I've got both of his blades tied up. And that allows Calcifer to close the distance in safety so that he can get the kill. Right? It's all about that control that prevents some form of a threat to address Calcifer and Evelyn, that lets us get the angle in, perform that flank, and get the kills that we needed. So across the board, in all of these examples, finding some way to control an element of the fight leads to an opportunity. whether that be a rush, whether that be a press, whether that be a cross shot from a friend, whether that be a return riposte strike. Controlling some element can develop into an opportunity, and so we should always be on the lookout for how can we control parts of the fight, how can we control their blade, how can we control movement, how can we control where they move to gain those those opportunities.